Welcome to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. KC Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. KC Cares is proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation. I'm Ruth Bombigas. Connecting has been a bit of a strained activity throughout the past pandemic year, but there is at least one local organization that has continued to make things happen, particularly in the entrepreneurial sector. Associated with UMKC, no cost to entrepreneurs or nonprofits, network of building business resources, organizations in an 18-county Kansas City region. That's KC Sourcelink. And here to tell us more about this robust organization is Jenny Miller, a network builder. Jenny, welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm happy to be here.
All right, burning question. What is a network builder?
I love that question. A lot of times people hear network builder and hear entrepreneurship, and they assume that I'm a tech entrepreneur. But no, when we're talking about networks, we talk about people, programs, organizations, connecting them with one another and building networks to help our businesses start and grow in Kansas City. And so that's what I do is work with entrepreneurs, work with startups, work with businesses that are on our main streets, help them get connected with the resources that are available to help them start and grow, connect the resources together, and then work on the entrepreneurial ecosystem as a whole. So a lot of people that we're networking and connecting those networks of networks together and building our ecosystem in Kansas City.
So some of our audience might be asking, well, why is KC Cares talking to KC Sourcelink? Are they a nonprofit? What are they? So let's talk about the bones of KC Sourcelink. Tell us how that's organized and where you sit.
Yes, KC SourceLink is a program of the UMKC Innovation Center. So we are a grant-funded organization that was started in 2003 with a grant from the Kauffman Foundation to the university in order to connect service providers for entrepreneurs. So as we were looking at the landscape, said there are tons of entrepreneur support organizations in Kansas City. The problem is those organizations don't know about one another, and the entrepreneurs that need those services don't know which ones to go to. So that was the gap that KC Sourcelink was founded to fill in 2003. At our core, that's still what we're doing today. We have 240 nonprofit service providers that are part of our network, and it's our job to raise the visibility of those organizations to the entrepreneurs that need their services. So we're still a program of the university today, and we are working with right around 4,000 entrepreneurs each year.
That's tremendous.
Yes.
Wow. So with all these organizations, we use the word network and we seem to toss it out there. Can we define that a little more? So what does that mean that you and your team, I assume, are really doing?
Yep. So when you start looking at 240 organizations, a lot of people think that there's duplication of efforts. A lot of these organizations are doing the same things for the same groups. When we start connecting all of these organizations into a network and seeing how they connect with one another, we're actually able to see that the resources cluster around 4 types of entrepreneurs. So micro enterprise, the small 1 to 3 person organization, probably operated out of someone's home. A main street business, so the brick and mortar businesses that you drive by every day. Innovation-led businesses, new products and new technologies coming out, and then growth stage businesses, second stage businesses. And those resources that I talked about, those 240 organizations work with those different types of entrepreneurs. They offer different technical expertise for those organizations or for the entrepreneurs. And they also work with different stages of businesses. So when you start connecting and networking all of these programs and services, we have actually designed what's called the resource rail. So you can look and see as an entrepreneur what type of business you're in, your stage of business development, and see all the organizations there for you. So our program, KC Sourcelink, works to make sure that those 240 partners know about each other, they're working together so that they can specialize in what they're good at, so they can be efficient and effective at their piece of the ecosystem. We know that, especially as nonprofits, we want to help everybody. What KC Sourcelink allows our partners to do is specialize in what you're good at, but be able to help everybody by connecting them with the best resource for them. Then KC Sourcelink operates a triage center for our entrepreneurs. So they can call us. 816-235-6500 is our hotline, answered by real people, so that we can help entrepreneurs start for-profit businesses, start nonprofit businesses. And what we're hearing a lot of now is looking at social enterprise and looking at how that fits into the ecosystem too.
I love you used a medical term to describe business in nonprofits. Who would have thought? So let's take a deeper dive. What is that triage? I mean, why would somebody pick up that phone and go, help?
Right. And so picking up that phone allows people to answer a question. It's as simple as maybe, I need to license my business. How do I do that? And we can walk them through that process and connect them with all of the programs and organizations that they need to get that paperwork done. Maybe somebody woke up today and said, I want to start a business. We look at the statistics of that in Kansas City, and we know that 92,000 people across Kansas City wake up every day and think, I'm going to start a business. So we're here to help them with, what does that look like for you? Do you have industry background? Do you know what type of business you're going to start? Ask some of those key questions to help them have a successful business start. Also, as businesses are going through, and especially as we've seen in the past 16 months, a lot has changed, right? What happened today may not be the same thing, or you might not be living in the same world or situation tomorrow. So we have our pulse on what's happening in entrepreneurship in Kansas City, who's doing what as far as the service providers and initiatives, funding that may be possible for businesses, so that that business owner can call us with really any problem, any question, any goal that they have that they need help with, and we can help them through that process.
Well, I'm going to keep that number handy.
Yes, please do.
Now, it's interesting that entrepreneurship and nonprofits intersect with your organization. Can you talk a little bit about that? It may not be a top of mind thing that people think, nonprofit and entrepreneurs.
Interestingly enough, I mentioned 4,000 entrepreneurs reaching out to us. Nonprofit assistance is in our top 5 requests continually. So when we're looking at starting an entity, if you think of, I want to solve a problem. That's what businesses do. That's what nonprofits do. It's a lot of the same mindset of someone starting a for-profit business versus starting a nonprofit business. And I say a nonprofit doesn't mean that you're not making money, that you don't have to have money. You, as the nonprofit leader, have to have that organization be sustainable, and you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset to do that. So it's very similar to start a for-profit versus a nonprofit entity. It's just a different process that people have to go through. So we're able to walk people through that, provide access to the resources that those nonprofit leaders are going to need to be successful, and then also help them navigate the waters of starting those nonprofit organizations.
I know we recently shared through some of our social media, you had provided, I think it was 5 or 7 tips, suggestions for nonprofits. Any of those come off the top of your head by chance that you could share with our audience?
So when we're on our website, we've developed guides on how to start a nonprofit. What does it look like to be a nonprofit? Some of the tips that we have for people that are looking to start nonprofits are being very intentional about their boards. Nonprofits, one of the things that we do a lot when people call us is help educate. When they want to start a nonprofit, what does that mean and how do you have that be successful from the start? So incorporating an intentional board with your organization to help people run through that. Because the board, as all of us in the nonprofit world, your board is actually what runs the organization. So making sure the people that are setting up these nonprofits from the beginning realize that and make sure that they're being intentional with that organization, even if that person is no longer with the organization.
What a great resource. Again, tell our nonprofit listeners where they can find all this again.
We are at KCSourceLink.com, or you can give us a call at 816-235-6500.
Perfect. Had to give you that little plug space right there. I just didn't want to I didn't want to lose that. I want to talk about your team. So, networking, who's part of this team and kind of background on them and their expertise.
Yes. So KC Sourcelink is part of the UMKC Innovation Center, as I mentioned. And so within the Innovation Center, we actually focus on 4 pillars. The first is technology venture development. So looking at early stage technologies that are being developed across our metro and across our region. The second is looking at one-on-one counseling and education for our entrepreneurs and business owners. We also do ecosystem development, which is the pillar that I oversee and KC Sourcelink is a part of. And we have global expansion. So looking at taking the philosophies here in Kansas City, what we're developing for the ecosystem, and we actually work with about 72 communities across the US to do this work as well. So when we look at the whole organization, we all kind of have our piece of the pie, but work very closely together in order to help all of our organizations across Kansas City.
Can we take a deeper dive into your actual programming and things that are out there that quote unquote the entrepreneurial audience can take advantage of or participate in?
Yes, yes. So KC SourceLink oversees Kansas City's most comprehensive business calendar. And interestingly enough, as I talked about, nonprofits are reaching out to, we have a tab on our calendar specifically for nonprofit leaders to access additional trainings, education, and networking events. I mention that because this is kind of a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs, business owners, for-profit, nonprofit to come together and see everything that's happening for them right now, right? So that they can help plan out, they can see who's hosting events, where they're at, if there's a cost for that event, and they can register for all events right from our calendar. We also offer the resource navigator. So as people are out there and they're looking for assistance and maybe they don't want to call or they're just kind of dipping their toe in the water, they can go online to our resource navigator, type in what type of entity they are, maybe where they're located in the metro, their geographic area, and what they need help with. And our navigator searches those 240 organizations and provides the top 2 to 3 that would be the best fit for what that individual needs right now.
You've got lots of stuff. You're almost like this electronic community center library.
I say we're like the GPS for your business. We're here to help you navigate the journey and figure out where you need to go and what turns you need to make.
Excellent. I love that. I know that you've launched something within the last year or so. We create corporate engagement. Let's talk about what that is. And did you really launch it in a pandemic year?
I know, right? So, we, as the UMKC Innovation Center, and especially the ecosystem development pillar, is looking at the imperatives for a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. And we're constantly measuring all of those imperatives to see where we're sitting and what's going on. If anyone is available in the data, we are part of a university. So we do a lot of data. It's all available at wecreatekc.com. When we're looking at the 6 imperatives, corporate engagement is one of them. We started measuring these imperatives in 2011, and corporate engagement was the lowest ranked imperative, being it was our weakest area. Still, when we were measuring that, it was one of the weakest areas for us. So we decided, as most nonprofits do, here's a problem, we're going to fix it. And so we did a deep dive look into what is corporate engagement with an entrepreneurial ecosystem? How does this work? What are best practices? And how can we increase or drive corporate engagement into our entrepreneurial ecosystem in Kansas City? So this initiative is called We Create Corporate Engagement. We did, as I mentioned, a deep dive. We have a very long white paper about what is happening in Kansas City, best practices from across the nation, and really lays out the next steps that our region needs to take to move the needle in this space. We found that there are 5 mutually beneficial strategic exchanges that large entities and small entities can use in order to build bridges and help have some of the same language and work together more efficiently. Those 5 areas include sponsorship, investment, people, product, and place. We know that our larger organizations have a lot of people with very in-depth knowledge, as well as space that may be available, and they're selling products already. How can we utilize what's already here to help the entrepreneurs? And then our 4th area is supplier vendor sourcing. And then research and development is the 5th. So really looking at those areas and how do they work in driving the corporate dollars from Kansas City into our businesses, as well as the people, products, and places, as I mentioned.
So again, it's sponsorship, investment, people, product, place. I love alliteration. R&D.
Supplier vendor sourcing.
Supplier vendor sourcing. I think this
Yes.
is really important. I would think that's important to a nonprofit or a profit entity.
Exactly. Yep. And there, you mentioned we launched this during a pandemic. Yes, March 10th of 2020.
Oh my goodness.
Like, could we have gone a worse time? Probably not. But it has been interesting to work on that over the course of the pandemic, because you have seen supply chains get disrupted on everywhere. That's one of our strategic exchanges. You've seen a move to invest more in our local businesses, looking at what is the capital that our small businesses need, because we saw that they weren't able to access what they needed when they needed it during the pandemic. So how can we come together as a community to better support that?
Well, before we leave the pandemic on the table, what other things did your organization have to do or do during the pandemic to kind of shift and accommodate really what the landscape was, which it was for at least 3 to 6 months, a pretty locked down community?
Right. Yes. So this is the first recession we've had that was led by small business. And so we saw that our small businesses were hit first. They were hit the hardest. Um, Through March of 2020, our hotline, the number of businesses that were calling our hotline increased by 300%. Our businesses were lost, just as all of us were trying to figure out what is a pandemic, what COVID-19, what is this? I don't even know. Waking up and the rules that we operated under yesterday are not the same rules today. So many questions, so much uncertainty. And we were able to, I get a little choked up when I talk about it because I'm so proud of what our team did. But we switched ourselves to working virtually. We were able to get our hotline ringing into our cell phones in our homes so that we could help businesses. We have our network of service providers. We had a meeting with them, calling everyone together to see what's going on. What are we going to do? We had, within 3 days of Kansas City being declared an emergency, we had a website that was all the updated resources, tips, and information available for our businesses. As we went through the pandemic and saw that this is not going to be a 2 or 3 week thing, we were able to introduce a financing form so businesses could come online and look at what's available for their type of business right now. How do they access that? What help is available for them? And especially looking at federal stimulus dollars, and then as that rolled through, state and local dollars as well.
How great that you were able to do that and had the foresight to really get going and moving very quickly. So now, a year and a half or so later, what are those pandemic positives that you've been able to incorporate and will keep?
Yes. Yep. So the flexibility of work, we know that we can work from home. We have the technologies now to be able to do that. It allows us also to be out in the community more. Before, someone needed to be physically in the office in order to answer our phones. Now we can be out in the community working with businesses, still answering the phones as people are calling. It really allows us more flexibility to serve more businesses, uh, which which that's our mission. That's what we want to do. So we've also seen, and interesting, I think, for this audience, a lot more people looking to solve social challenges in Kansas City. So looking to bridge that nonprofit, for-profit world. This is a challenge. This is a problem. It had the spotlight on it for the past 15 months. I have I have the capacity to solve that. I think I can do this to help in that area. And we're seeing a lot more people starting ventures to solve our local problems.
Can you give us, in the few minutes left, some of the programs or activities that folks can take advantage of that come through yours? And the real big one I'm thinking is Global Entrepreneurship Week, which is going to
Yeah.
really happen, right?
Yes, yes. Global Entrepreneurship Week, Kansas City, happens every year in November. We did put that in virtual last year. We were able to still host it. Looking forward, we are doing more of a hybrid format for 2021. During Global Entrepreneurship Week, we host hundreds of events and have thousands of attendees. So we obviously want the safety of all of our attendees is top priority, but we know that it is so important for entrepreneurs, business owners, those looking to start ventures to build their network of people, right? Getting to know others that are doing the same thing, accessing content and education that they wouldn't normally be able to access. We put that all together into 1 week, the third week of November. It's all free. And we encourage everyone to come out, take advantage of those programs and events that are happening during that week, and kind of find your tribe.
So again, they can go to your website and stay up to date on what's going on with that and some of the other activities that you have. I think it's interesting that everything is free. How are you able to do that?
Our organization is totally grant funded. So we go after federal grants is mostly what we're looking at so that we can bring these programs and services to our community. Um, we know that there are so many businesses out there that need help, that want help. And so we are able to provide that and then also measure entrepreneurship. We hear a lot of times about big businesses coming into Kansas City. We know that our entrepreneurs and business owners are creating nearly 15,000 jobs year after year after year. So we're able to look at the impact of our small businesses and really put a number on that and help shine the spotlight on all the great things that are happening throughout Kansas City.
Does it ever make you a little anxious to be grant funded since that's often repeatedly having to do
Yep.
applications and fingers crossed?
I will say we've gotten really good at processes, right? So understanding something that's really nice about our organization is that we are very much into data. We are collecting data on the ecosystem all the time. We are looking to solve the problems that our entrepreneurs and small businesses are facing so that when a grant opportunity does come around, we know what is needed and we have the data to support that need. And we also have a collaborative network here in Kansas City, right? So it's not just KC Sourcelink, it is this network of resources that can really come together, access federal funds in order to support our ecosystem.
Well, it's so incredible that you all are here and you're a resource and a welcoming resource and making it easy for those of us who find you and decide to take advantage of everything that you have to offer. Again, we want folks to know you can go to kcsourcelink.com and find all kinds of things. And the hotline number, one more time.
816-235-6500.
Jenny, thank you so much for your time and bringing us up to date with everything going on.
Yes, thank you for having me. I hope I see a lot of KC Cares listeners at Global Entrepreneurship Week this year. And as we said, call us, reach out. We are happy to help in any way that we can.
Thank you for listening to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, also a nonprofit, and we're proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation. If you'd like to be a guest on KC Cares or underwriting opportunities to support our work, please visit our website, kccaresonline.org, and spread the love. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. And catch us on ESPN 1510 AM, 94.5 FM, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Thank you for listening and watching KC Cares.